All right, buckle up, because today we're diving into a chapter of history that is absolutely wild.
Oh, yeah, this one's a doozy.
It's the story of Pope Formosus and the infamous Cadaver Synod.
Yeah, you really can't make this stuff up.
9th century Rome.
Talk about a time of intrigue.
Church scandals galore.
Really makes you think about how much religion and politics were just intertwined back then.
Right. It wasn't just about the spiritual side of things.
Being pope, that was a seat of serious power.
Influence, too.
Oh, absolutely.
And right in the thick of it all, we've got Pope Formosus.
Now this guy...
He was not your average pope.
Not at all. He was a diplomat, and a good one.
And boy, could he navigate those power structures.
From the get-go, you could see the ambition.
Oh, yeah.
He moved up in the church fast, took on these big missions to Bulgaria and France.
Imagine that.
Boris the First, Bulgarian king,
Yeah.
actually wanted Formosus to be his archbishop.
Wow. Talk about a glowing recommendation.
This is a lot about Formosus.
For sure. His skills, reputation, the whole package.
But then it's like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
The church had these super strict rules.
Right.
He couldn't be both.
Oh, I see.
Some things never change, huh?
You got that right.
But you know, that ambition we talked about,
Yeah.
not everyone saw it as a good thing.
No.
Formosus gets excommunicated
Oh, seriously?
by Pope John VIII.
That's a pretty major setback.
For someone with his sights set so high, for sure.
But Formosus, he was not one to just disappear.
Nope.
Worked his way back in.
And then, get this,
What?
elected pope in 891.
No way. What a roller coaster.
Talk about resilience.
And knowing how to play the game?
But even becoming pope,
Yeah.
it didn't mean an easy ride.
Of course not.
Formosus had his share of challenges,
Oh, I bet.
especially his decision to back Arnulf of Carinthia for emperor.
Ah, so now we're stepping right into the political arena.
Big time.
Supporting a contender for the most powerful position in Europe.
That's going to make some enemies.
You think?
Oh, yeah, put him right up against Lambert of Spoleto, his mother, Agiltrude.
Powerful woman.
Very.
Sounds like Formosus was playing a high-stakes game.
Oh, definitely high stakes.
And when you gamble,
There's always a risk.
huge risk in this case.
And things got even riskier
How so?
when Arnulf got sick.
Oh.
Formosus lost his powerful ally.
Yeah,
Now he's exposed, vulnerable.
I can see where this is going.
This is where things take a turn.
A turn for the worse.
You could say that.
So Formosus dies in 896.
And no one could have predicted what happens next.
Wait, what could be more bizarre than what we've already talked about?
This is where Pope Stephen VI enters the picture.
Okay.
This guy had a serious grudge against Formosus.
A grudge.
Oh yeah, and he was willing to go to extremes.
Okay, I'm on the edge of my seat. What did he do?
Stephen decides Formosus, even though he's dead,
Yeah.
needs to be put on trial.
Hold on. They put a dead pope on trial.
That's right, he ordered the body exhumed,
Seriously?
put on display for a trial, unlike any other.
I mean, what, they propped him up or something?
Imagine this, Formosus's body,
Yeah.
dressed in full papal robes,
Okay.
propped up on a throne
You're kidding.
in the Basilica of St. John Lateran.
Wow.
And Stephen VI, he stands there in front of everyone,
Oh, wow.
just hurling accusations,
Call it accusations.
violating canon law, perjury, illegally becoming pope. The whole works.
Wow, the audacity is mind-boggling.
It was a spectacle.
A public one.
Oh yeah, this wasn't some behind closed doors thing.
So people actually witnessed this?
It was about humiliating Formosus, even in death,
Gee,
discrediting his legacy.
I bet people were horrified.
And it sent a message about Stephen's power.
I can't even imagine what it must have been like to be there.
It was a show of force.
So was anyone brave enough to speak up for a dead man?
Well, Formosus technically had a defense attorney.
He did.
Some poor deacon,
Wow.
probably terrified out of his mind,
I bet.
assigned to speak for a corpse.
That had to be the strangest legal defense in history.
Oh, for sure.
But do you think Stephen actually believed those accusations?
It seems like he was determined to condemn Formosus.
No matter what.
It was a power grab disguised as a trial.
So a show trial with the outcome already decided?
Exactly.
So what happened? What was the verdict?
Guilty, of course.
And the punishment?
They cut off his blessing fingers.
The ones used for papal blessings?
Yep, stripped him of his robes and tossed the body into the Tiber River.
Talk about adding insult to injury or insult to, well, death.
But that's not even the end of the story.
There's more.
Oh yeah, there's a twist coming, and it involves a fisherman and a shift in public opinion.
And oh boy, I can't wait to hear about that. All right, we're back. And I got to say, my mind is still reeling from this whole Cadaver Synod thing.
Yeah, it's pretty out there.
Like political rivalries, okay, I get that.
Sure.
But a trial against a dead body,
It's next level.
talk about taking things too far.
Shows you how far people will go for power.
Yeah. And in this case,
It backfired big time.
on Stephen.
Oh, yeah. How so?
Remember that fisherman we mentioned?
The one who found the body.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he pulls Formosus' body out of the Tiber.
Okay, so the body's recovered. I imagine that caused a bit of a stir.
Understatement.
What was the reaction like? Seeing the former pope's remains?
Especially after what Stephen did.
Right.
It was a turning point.
Really?
People were horrified.
Understandably.
I mean, think about it. To them, Formosus,
Yeah.
regardless of his politics,
Uh-huh.
he was still a representative of God.
So to do that to his body.
Even after death,
Yeah.
it was sacrilege.
It's like violating something sacred.
Exactly.
So it wasn't just a few people who were upset.
This was widespread outrage.
Wow.
People felt Stephen had crossed a line,
Even for that time period.
which, as we know, was pretty brutal.
Yeah.
But this was too much.
It seems like Stephen underestimated the power of, well, the people
He thought he could control the narrative.
with that whole trial. But it didn't work.
Backfired, you said.
Big time.
So the Cadaver Synod, it was supposed to make Stephen stronger?
It actually ended up being his downfall.
Wow.
The outcry was that strong.
So what happened to him? He didn't just quietly step down, did he?
Not quite. Deposed, imprisoned, let's
Yeah.
just say he met an unfortunate end.
As tended to happen back then.
Two popes who fell out of favor.
Wow. It's amazing how quickly things can change.
Power is fickle.
Especially back then.
1 minute, you're on top.
Orchestrating bizarre trials.
The next.
You're facing the consequences.
Yeah, it makes you think.
About Formosus.
Yeah.
What about his legacy?
After all that.
Surely his reputation was tarnished.
Well, actually, there's
Okay.
more. Formosus' story doesn't end there.
It doesn't.
His successors,
Okay.
Pope Theodore II
Uh-huh.
and Pope John IX,
Okay.
they recognized the injustice.
Good.
And they took steps to restore Formosus' honor.
So, some redemption for our posthumously tried pope.
You could say that.
What did they do?
First, they annulled the verdict,
From the Cadaver Synod.
basically saying it was invalid.
That's pretty bold, overturning a previous pope's actions.
But it was the right thing to do,
Yeah, they understood the importance of justice.
even for the dead.
Right?
And they didn't stop there.
No.
They reburied Formosus' body
Oh, wow.
in St. Peter's Basilica.
A place of honor.
Exactly.
So in the end, Formosus got the respect he deserved.
The dignity that Stephen denied him.
That's kind of a satisfying ending to such a strange story.
It is.
And it shows that truth,
And justice,
even if it takes a while.
they can prevail.
But the Cadaver Synod itself,
Yeah.
that had to have lasting consequences.
Beyond just Formosus.
Right, for the church.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, an event that big, that public.
Yeah, weird.
Yeah.
It had to leave a mark.
So how did the church, as an institution, how did they deal with the fallout?
That's a great question, and it's something we're going to explore as we continue our deep dive.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
The Cadaver Synod, it wasn't just some bizarre footnote.
Right.
It became a symbol, a cautionary tale,
Interesting.
one that would shape the church for years to come.
Wow. Okay, so we've gone from a politically ambitious pope,
To a bizarre trial.
public outcry,
Another pope toppled.
but now we're talking about lasting impacts on the church as a whole.
It's a wild ride.
That's one way to put it.
And as we head into the final part of our exploration,
Okay.
we'll examine how the Cadaver Synod, for all its absurdity, actually played a role in shaping the future of the Catholic Church.
Okay, so we've gone through the whole crazy story with Pope Formosus.
His ambition, the politics, that totally weird trial.
Thanks to Pope Stephen VI.
It's like, can you even imagine a weirder episode in the history of popes?
Right. But as crazy as it was,
The Cadaver Synod, I mean,
yeah,
it really had consequences.
beyond just those guys who were directly involved.
Way beyond.
It was like a turning point for the church.
It made them face some hard truths.
Okay, so how did they deal with the fallout from such a scandalous event?
I mean, this is an institution that says it has divine authority.
Right. Did they just try to brush it under the rug, pretend it never happened?
That's the thing. They couldn't.
Real.
The Cadaver Synod, it was too public.
Yeah.
Too shocking.
I mean, it's not like it was just a little disagreement.
No, this was like desecrating a pope's body.
Abuse of power, for sure.
It became a symbol of
Yeah.
everything that was wrong with the papacy back then.
But what were the long-term consequences for the church.
Well, it kind of fueled this reform movement.
Really?
People started questioning the Pope's power.
You mean like how much power they had?
Yeah, and how worldly the institution had become.
So this crazy event, it actually pushed the church toward being more accountable.
And focusing more on spiritual values.
It's kind of like every cloud has a silver lining.
Except this cloud was like a major storm.
Yeah, it was a mess, but it brought about some positive change.
The Cadaver Synod exposed how vulnerable the system was.
Yeah, and it showed people that things needed to change.
The reformers, they used this to call for a more just church.
It's amazing that something so outrageous could lead to something so profound.
It's like Formosus, even though he was dead,
Yeah,
he ended up playing a bigger part in shaping the church than he ever could have imagined.
that's a good point. His story became a rallying cry,
For change,
a change that lasted for years.
and beyond just the calls for reform,
Yeah.
the Cadaver Synod, it also became a cautionary tale,
What do you mean?
a reminder about the dangers of getting too ambitious.
And abusing power.
Exactly.
Yeah, I bet future popes, even the ones with bad intentions, they'd think twice before doing something like that again.
For sure.
The consequences were pretty clear.
Lose your power, ruin your reputation, not exactly a good look.
It's a powerful lesson about how far people will go for power.
And about respecting your rivals, even after they're gone.
Right, even in death.
It's crazy to think that something that happened so long ago
Yeah.
can still be relevant to us today.
It shows that history isn't just some boring thing in the past.
It's about these universal themes
Power, ambition, justice,
and how we try to balance faith and politics.
which is something we're still figuring out today.
Exactly.
I think the story of Pope Formosus and the Cadaver Synod, it shows how complicated human nature is.
And how these stories from the past can help us understand the world better.
Absolutely. I bet our listeners are going to walk away from this deep dive.
With a lot to think about,
Yeah, not just about this one weird event.
but about how history connects to our lives today.
Exactly.
The Cadaver Synod was definitely a dark chapter.
Yeah.
But it teaches us about leadership, about what happens when people abuse their power, and about fighting for justice, even when it seems impossible.
It makes you think about the institutions that have power over us,
And it reminds us to be careful about the people who run them.
to make sure they're not just using their power for their own gain.
Right.
So something as wild as the Cadaver Synod could happen back then,
What's happening today that might seem crazy now?
but could end up shaping history in ways we can't even imagine.
It's a good question to think about.
It is.
Keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.
Until next time.